Hello and welcome to the Futro Hidden Movie Gems podcast. I am your host, Ty Christensen. Of course! All right, we've got Jordan Christensen.
Oh, you think the darkness is your ally?
That was gonna be my quote, you nerd.
I was born in it.
I didn't see the light of day until I was a man, and by then it was blinded.
I was blind.
That's such a scary scene.
I think he literally hisses at one point. And we've
It's not
got
Gollum.
Cameron Mickle.
Do you feel in charge?
And we have...
Wait.
And we've got a special guest.
Wait.
Grant Mickle.
What?
Just say, Grant. Crushing this plane.
No time for fear. No, I love the quote when he's
Here
like,
comes later.
maybe he's wondering why you
later.
would shoot him before throwing him out of a plane. No time for fear, doctor. That comes later. I could quote this movie all day long.
I'm not going to lie. I couldn't tell. Maybe you guys can help me answer this. I couldn't tell where Anne Hathaway's butt ended and where Batman Tire began. You know, I just couldn't tell where that worked out. That didn't work.
Nice time.
Couldn't tell. Here, let me say that again. Let me try it one more time. What I
I
meant to
couldn't
say
tell
was,
her butt.
Couldn't tell her
You
butt
sound like
from
Ed.
the Bat
You
Bike's
better
wheel.
watch your butt. Okay.
I couldn't tell her butt from that tight leather suit. It looks like part of the bat wheel, like the Bat Bike's wheel. It really does. It's weird. I don't know. It's just like an optical illusion.
I love
hard to
Bane's
explain.
quote too when he's like, "Talk of the devil and he shall appear."
Yes.
What I gotta be
are
honest,
you?
we all sound like I'm Gotham's Reckoning. We all sound like
give it
some
to you.
French guy.
The people.
People.
People. We all sound so ridiculous. We don't sound menacing at all. Now Tom Hardy does a good job because he does sound
he does
menacing
such
with
a
that
good
voice he
job.
has. We're taking Gotham from the corrupt. So funny, dude.
Dude, and then tell me where the trigger is. Then you have
When
my
Gotham,
permission to die.
when Gotham burns in ashes, then you will have my permission to die. Okay, so we've quoted all of Bane. Grant, have you thought of a quote yet?
This is Basra. The little chant that they do. That's the only quote is a different language. This is Basra. This is Basra.
Guys, I always thought they were just saying, this is awesome. Awesome. This is awesome. That's awesome. This is awesome.
They're just in a prison.
Dude,
Just,
I
this
think
is awesome.
It's either
awesome.
it's either like a
not a
made up
rave.
language or it's like some like
Guys,
weird.
this is
What
some
are they
concert.
saying?
This is it's a concert. The Pit. It's called The Pit. This is awesome.
Dude, it's all they get for
This
entertainment is people leaping to their deaths, dude. That's
It's
all they
American
get for
Ninja Warrior
entertainment.
on steroids. Got John Cena.
Do it how
there
do it
goes
how the
down
child
Bruce
did it
Wayne.
without the rope.
Dude. Okay, yeah. But let's get into this,
Why
baby.
didn't they get the running start? They had at least 2 or 3 steps. It just always bothered me. They did a flat jump, which anyone knows you can't leap as far as if you take at least a running 1 or 2 step leap. That's all I'm saying. It always annoyed me.
Dude, it's like the
Nitpick.
ultimate warrior ninja or whatever, ninja warrior.
That's what I just
Yeah.
said, the American Ninja Warrior cheap.
Yeah.
If you're listening.
Hey, but Cameron, you need to give Jordan a little bit more room to talk, okay? So
The
you just need to cut
the
down there a
ultimate
little bit.
Beastmaster.
Ultimate
Do you guys ever
Beastmaster.
watch that on Netflix? It's so
That
dope.
was insane.
I don't know. It made me think of Wipeout or like The Floor is Lava.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
those are funny.
Those game shows.
Yeah, but Wipeout's more unathletic people just getting absolutely dominated.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of fat people being hit by foam rubber mallets with padding metal pallets or whatever.
Full
or
like
metal
face
bats.
first in
It's
the
like
mud.
it's like that episode of Black Mirrors, Cameron, when the guy's on the bicycle and he's watching the video, remember, and he's like laughing at the fat people getting sprayed with
That makes
water.
me so uncomfortable. That reminds me of Matilda in the muddy scene. And that's one of my biggest fears.
Get
that
sticky
scene.
with Mickey!
Yeah, that scene gives me so much anxiety. I just like,
How the whole crowd's laughing and they keep zooming in on his face. And the whole family's laughing. The mom's laughing and cackling. And Danny DeVito's literally forcing Matilda to watch the TV. Like, that's some good parenting right
Yeah.
there. Forcing her, just holding your daughter's head and making her watch the TV.
I know that's some Clockwork Orange stuff right there.
Yeah. She's just like,
Dude,
and then
that's some
blows
of
up
the
TV.
that's some of the Russell Crowe. What's it called? Or not Russell Crowe. The conspiracy theory.
Oh, yeah, Mel
take
Gibson.
the eyes
Mel
off
Gibson. He's flying.
Okay, we
folks,
probably
today,
should do it, yeah.
if you haven't noticed, we're discussing The Dark Knight Rises with our beautiful impressions and impersonations of... is impersonation? My impersonation of Bane was just...
Yeah, you should have
fleek.
started the podcast with your Bane voice.
Welcome to Futro Hidden Movie Jams. Yes, this is Futro Hidden Movie Jams. I just don't sound intimidating. I sound ridiculous, but that's my best version of the voice. Like, it's weird. It's through a filter. It's with that mask on, you know? So we're talking about The Dark Knight Rises. This movie came out in 2012. It was directed by Christopher Nolan. Its writers were Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan.
Don't forget about Jonathan.
It stars Christian Bale, Tom Hardy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
pretty
Anne Hathaway,
decent cast.
Marianne Cotillard, Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, need I say more, Matthew Modine.
We saw Maul again from freaking Inception.
Oh, yeah.
That's Marianne Cotillard. Yeah, it's funny to see her that one. And
Ra's al
funnier to
Ghul's
see her
daughter.
stab Batman. That always makes me laugh for some reason.
And Jason Gordon-Levitt coming back from Inception is also.
Yeah, baby, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Can you shorten his name? Such a long name.
I know.
JDL.
It's kind of
JDL. Yeah, it is kind of inconvenient. Like, everyone else has two names, but he did Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Like, can
It's
just
not like
do Joseph
Leonardo
Levitt.
DiCaprio's is a very easy name to say.
Leonardo DiCappuccino. Okay, so we've got everybody here, guys. We're reviewing this movie. What was it like watching this movie for the first time and rewatching it for the podcast? Let's start with you, Cameron.
Yeah, baby. Okay, so like I mentioned on the I believe the Batman Begins or the Dark Knight episode, this was actually the first Batman of the trilogy that I saw. So this is what got me hooked.
That's so crazy.
Isn't
I
that
don't
wild?
understand that.
Well, it's because it came out in 2012, and I think I might have seen this when I was 12 or 13. I think it was one of the first PG-13s I saw, and because it just came out recently, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to watch this."
Cameron's like, the darkness, I was born in it.
Blinding.
And so, watching it for the first time, I actually watched it with Jordan, right, Jordo?
I showed. Well,
Fear agents, very dangerous to the untrained, but not to
we
the
are not.
initiated.
Aren't we, Bruce?
Aren't we, Bruce? Yeah, he says his name, Wayne. Bruce Wayne.
Cameron, I showed you. I was trying to be a cool brother, and I always kept showing you like little scenes from PG-13s because I showed you Jurassic Park, and apparently that was a big mistake. Because
Just
you
a
had
little
nightmares that
traumatic.
night.
I just went and hid in the bathroom and said I had to go to the bathroom during the T-Rex scene, so I didn't have to watch the rest of the T-Rex scene because I was
Terrifying.
so
I thought it was
frightened.
being cool, and then
Well, it was just
I
because
showed.
the speakers were on max, and it was just like, "Ah," and I was like,
No, Cameron, to this day, that T-Rex coming out of its cage is by far one of the most suspenseful TV movies or
easily.
movie scenes I've ever seen. And I watch it to this day. It
Yeah.
still terrifies me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like, two kids screaming while a T-Rex comes through the roof of a glass car, like that's going to do any good. Like, that's terrifying. That's just
Yeah.
absolutely
Well,
terrifying.
I showed you the football scene, Cameron. I'm like, oh, Cameron likes football. I think he'll dig this.
yeah.
Which I got to say, watching it this time, man, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess he made that touchdown, but the whole football field disappearing behind him, great visual. It's just like unbelievable.
And a lot of it's practical effects. Like Jordan showed me the behind the scenes with it as well a long time ago. I don't know if you remember that, Jordan. And it's crazy. They had an actual field with holes that people would dive into, and they would just CGI of like the falling, the actual turf. It's crazy. Yeah, and but yeah, watching it for the first time.
Were any of those football players real, Cameron?
Yeah, so they had Ben Roethlisberger, and
Yeah.
also the guy who had the ball. His name is Hines Ward. He's like a Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
Yep.
it was kind of
He's
cool.
the
They had
Steelers team, yeah.
both them in the movie, which I'm like, that couldn't have been super cheap. But I mean, I bet they were super stoked. Like, I get to be in a Batman movie. You're kidding me? Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So,
I was surprised, I didn't see any Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem, which I thought was disappointing. Didn't see enough Black Lives Matter representation during the football scene. But I guess Bane blew up the stadium, so I guess we're even.
What a beautiful voice. Let the games begin.
What a lovely, lovely voice.
So watching it for the first time, I actually watched it with Jordo and maybe Grant too, and I loved it. But I remember, I just want to give myself a little props, toot my own horn. When they showed the scene of the child escaping, I asked Jordan, because Jordan had already seen it before when I was watching it. I was like, dude, who is that person just absolutely destroying everyone? I'm like, that person is a baller. And then Jordan just looked at me and wouldn't respond. I was like, who is that? And then so that's why I was like, is that Bane? And he wouldn't respond. I was like, what the fudge? And that's why later when they revealed that it was Bane and he was protecting Talia al Ghul, I was like, oh, I called that, but I did not call it at the same time. It was such a dope reveal. But yeah.
Oh, in the prison. You're talking about in prison.
Yeah. In the
Yeah,
prison.
in the prison. She had a protector.
But I absolutely loved it the first time. At the time, it was my favorite. It was one of my favorite movies ever. And I mean, I hadn't even seen The Dark Knight, and I was just like, this is so amazing. And so,
Did anybody else forget that Ra's al Ghul makes a cameo in this? I forgot Liam Neeson pops up in this again.
dude.
I forgot
It
about
was
that.
a ghost or like a memory or something. Yeah.
It's Qui-Gon Jinn. She's like, always remember your training. Anakin's
the
like, oh wait,
Jedi
that can't be
ghost.
right. That's not right. That's not right.
and
You become something more than just a man. You become something else entirely.
dude, that's pretty
A
good.
legend passed away.
And rewatching for the podcast, I just love it. I think it holds up really well. Obviously, there was a couple plot points that I think were like, there was a couple struggles and a couple bumps in the road. But I think considering what it had to follow up and what it
Autopilot
had to,
bumps.
and what it had to and what it had to
The
wrap
Batwing.
what it had to wrap up, like mad props. I'm like, Christopher Nolan, you just wrapped up one of the best trilogies ever and like had so much to follow up The Dark Knight. It's like it's impossible to follow that up like with anything as good. And like the fact that he followed up something almost as good, I'm just like, dude, you're a master.
Yeah, as far as trilogy go, this is a great story because this one expounds on the lie that's told at the Dark Knight, right? The noble lie where they let everybody believe in the city that Harvey Dent
There's
was
lots of
good.
callbacks to
Which
one
is very
and
reminiscent.
two.
Like, if you wanted to know what Insomnia sequel looks like, this is what it is, Jordan. It's The Dark Knight Rises, where what happens after Al Pacino's character, gets framed and Hilary Swank turns in the evidence and proves that he, in fact, was a dirty cop. All the people escape, and they all get to overtake Gotham, and the world's a much better place because of the truth. Tell her the truth, Aladdin. All right, so keep going, Cam.
I love that you always like quickly say which movie you're quoting.
Sometimes people need a frame of reference because they're like, what is he quoting? I'm like, I think I know that reference.
Is this guy completely out of his mind?
I really am. That's why I have to mention it. Like, I am using some through line. Anyway, well, and it was Robin Williams from Aladdin, who was also in Insomnia. I'm just saying, I'm more intelligent with my movie quotes
all
than most
connected.
people give me credit for. I'm not crazy, okay? So, go ahead, Karen.
No, yeah, I just like what's called after rewatching it. I was kind of worried because it's always been my second favorite of the Batman trilogy. And I was kind of worried that after how good Batman Begins was, I was like, man, I might like Batman Begins more. But at least for me personally, this is number 2 for me. I just love it, and there's just like it's so fun for setup, and I just love like because I wish they would have gone with a Nightwing series after this, but following it up with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. But it is what it is.
They still can.
Too late.
No, they still can. We live in a world where you can make a Batman movie every other year.
It's true.
And they will.
Or every year.
They will.
Every half year. They already are.
No, but see, that's why they need to do the Nightwing. They need to do the Nightwing like thing. That would be so sick, dude.
Some other director, unless you want it, Christopher Nolan again. I don't know if he'd come back to it. I think he's done doing Batman.
He wouldn't do it.
No.
He wouldn't do it.
There's no way.
If enough money was there. No, kidding. All right, so Jordan, how about you? What was the first time you watched it and been rewatching it for the podcast?
So first time I went to Walmart and me and my ex, we bought these Batman face masks, but they was kind of like digging into my face, so I took it off once the movie started. And then,
Oh, this really stings.
Yeah, it's like the first Batman when
It's really dampening my movie viewing experience.
but one of the guys with us, so my ex's friend, her boyfriend, he shaved his head and then he wore a Bane mask.
way.
Yeah, it was dope.
Dang,
and dude, he
dude.
was ripped as shiz, so he looked really good.
That's
He
awesome.
looked like
George was like,
Yeah.
he was kind of hot.
no. So a lot of people were taking pictures like of our group because they were like, "Oh, check out this guy. He looks just like Bane." It
That's
was
freaking
dope.
awesome, dude.
That's super sick.
And then he proceeded to...
Too soon, dude. Too soon.
Oh, dude.
Oh my gosh.
That's horrible.
Dark.
I can't laugh at that. You're disgusting, Ty.
Yeah, you make me sick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that wasn't... I thought that was the same story. I'm sorry. You're telling me a
Grant was
different
just
one.
no hesitation laughing the whole time.
I thought it was hilarious.
Well, I was biting my tongue so hard. I was like, "This is disgusting." Can't believe I laughed at that.
We're all going to... It's okay.
Yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Okay, and then recently rewatching it. Sorry, Cameron, but no, this is listen,
What was
there's
favorite?
parts of it I love. Like, I love Bane, and I will forever love him. But
Talk about dude. I will
I'll forever love him.
Okay, talk
Sounds
about
like a bad breakup.
dude. Dude, talk about a follow-up performance from Heathgate. This was on par, like not on par, but like similar to where I didn't even know that it was what's his name? Why am I blanking?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. I didn't even know it was Tom Hardy until someone told me afterwards. Same thing with Heath Ledger. I was just like, that was Tom Hardy? Are you kidding me? Like, I could not tell. He got big for this role. Oh my gosh. His freaking traps, they're like connecting to his ears. I'm like, what the F?
I know,
What are you,
dude.
like,
He
fucking
looked like he
shoulder
was a
shrugging
guy at a circus
3,000
that
pounds?
lifted elephants or something. Yeah, yeah. He's a guy that like does trapeze. Like he didn't look like like a bodybuilder necessarily. He just looked like a guy that picked up hay bales all day long. Like
He looks like the Mountain from fetching Game of Thrones, who's just a monster of a human being. Just like, how do you exist?
oh, is there a creature or character? It just sounded funny when you said he reminded me of the Mountain, like an actual mountain from like a geographical location. He looked like one of the mountains in Lord of the Rings.
Mount Timpanogos. Mount Timpanogos.
Oh my gosh! All right, how about you, Grant? What was it like watching it the first time, rewatching it for the pod?
It was a long time ago since I've seen it the first time, but I do remember that everyone was afraid that Bane's breathing and his voice would imitate Darth Vader. So everyone was afraid of like that kind of meme type thing happening. And then
That's so funny.
Yeah, and they just did such a good job. Like his voice was like still iconic, and like I don't know, it was such a good performance.
To where you get like us imitating.
I remember loving it the first time.
You feeling, Josh?
I know, right?
To the people.
It would be incredibly painful
for you. You're a tough guy.
for you. Oh my gosh.
So and then just I've rewatched it several times, and it's just such a rewatchable movie. It's so good.
For sure. Yeah, I'm actually surprised how easy it was to rewatch this. I was really hesitant because I kind of had a sour taste in my mouth after watching it the first time, just because Dark Knight is such a beloved movie of mine, and all of Nolan's films are just absolutely stunning. And this one was just so hard to follow up in the wake of Dark Knight. So when I first saw this movie, I was on my mission when this movie came out, so I wasn't able to see it until I got home. And I missed The Hobbit, the first one. That, mind you, this was before we ever knew what was going to happen with The Hobbit. So I missed The Hobbit while I was gone. I missed the first Avengers movie, which was so big, because I'd seen Captain America,
gosh, that was
I saw Thor,
ridiculous.
and there was one other one.
Iron Man 1.
Iron Man and Hulk. So I'd seen all of them up to that point. So I was like a big fanatic at this point, because I grew up watching Justice League with you, Cameron, and all the Marvel Comics Spider-Man. I love Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. I love the Dark Knight trilogy. So I'm all about heroes. I watched all superhero films, and I was so excited. And the Avengers movie, the first one was announced that it was going to come out in May, like 4 or 5 months after I was gone on my mission. So we won't watch movies on our mission. So I didn't get to see Avengers while I was on. But everyone in Chile was like, "Oh, Los Vengadores, you got to go see this thing, man. It's unbelievable." And I'm like, "Shut up, Pablo. You're going to spoil the whole fetching movie before I get a chance to see it first." And they're like a year later in my mission, I finally hadn't had it spoiled, and then someone spoiled like a part of the Avengers for me. But no one ever spoiled The Dark Knight. Not too many fans of The Dark
Endgame
Knight.
spoiled for me, Ty, on my mission. They were like, "Oh, didn't you know Black
no.
Widow dies?" And I was like, "I hate you so much."
You're like, and then you pressed your thumbs into their eye sockets and squished them
No,
out like jelly.
I just put my hand on
And
their
then you were
shoulder
even.
and I asked them if they felt in charge, and I snapped their neck.
Yeah, do you feel in charge? So watching this movie, I finally came home from my mission, and the first 3 movies I watched was The Hobbit, which was a total letdown. But I mean, when I say letdown, it was just like, oh, okay, that's the direction they're going to take it. So yeah, kind of a letdown.
Grant has the extended edition, Ty.
Dude, I love The
Oh
Hobbit.
my gosh. I think The Hobbit is
good.
fine. I just wish they would do 1 3-hour movie. I think.
I'm just
'cause
saying
there's just
they
not
could have
enough
just
substance.
literally
Substance.
copied and pasted all of the cutscenes from the video game. And
All
it would
the
have been better
dragon
than the
scenes
entire
are needed,
TV
dude.
series. With
Dragon
Smaug,
scene was
with-
great. I will give you that, Grant.
Yes.
Smaug was awesome. I wanted more
with
Smaug.
Smaug type. They could have just done the Smaug
Smaug.
with the pixeled color.
Smaug.
Ah, those cutscenes would have been better than
Thieves! Barrel Rider.
that would have been better than the actual movie.
No, I gotta say, yeah, I love parts of the movie too, Grant. It's just like I remember building it
I
up
need to
when you
rewatch
like,
that actually.
yeah, like when you were like The Hobbit came out, I gotta watch that. They have the Avengers, they have the Dark Knight. So I watched all those
And
movies.
you came home to a lot of good stuff.
Oh, a lot of great stuff came out while I was gone. So I was just in heaven, and then I watched Hunger Games. That was another craze that came out, and all these dystopian movies came out right at the same time too. Because on the success of Hunger Games, you got the Maze Runner, you got Divergent, you got all these fun movies. So I was going to the theater every week, every other day. Maze Runner, The Giver, all these movies, and all of them were very fun. And The Dark Knight kind of just got lost in all those great movies, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even that disappointed just because I was like, it was great to see an end. I actually liked how he wrapped it up. I think he did a really good job at tying off a lot of the loose ends that would leave the Batman universe in other capable hands, because I like the way Christopher Nolan ends his movies. He always ends it with, you know, you're kind of free to interpret the future of the world that he's left for you. You know, like in Inception, you're free to interpret the meaning of the movie. You're free to speculate as to what the actual outcome of the movie was, whether you actually have the answer or not. Like, you can kind of just say, yeah, it was a dream, or Cobb actually wasn't dreaming. This one was great because you end it with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. You find out his real name was Robin, and you're like, oh, okay, that's the tie-in. And you actually see his character arc, which was really good, that the system failed him. You know, they blew up the bridge because they were afraid to let people, innocent civilians, leave the island. And you're like, he tried to be a good cop. He tried to do everything legally by the books, and it fails at times. And so sometimes you need someone that's good. In these movies, I'm not advocating literal vigilante justice, but and he tells Gordon, he totally bashes him, which is interesting. And he goes, I love that. He's like, what would you have done? Like, I freaking love that. That is such a great dramatic scene. I love that because The Dark Knight posed such a good question where Batman had to take the fall for the death of Harvey Dent and all the people that Harvey Dent killed. I love that because, again, Joker predicted that he have to break his one rule, and he did. And in this movie, he doesn't actually end up ever killing anyone, except Catwoman does, kind of Deus Ex Machina-like, which is, we'll get into that later. So watching this movie again, I was surprised at how much more I liked it this time because it was better on rewatch because half of the pain was just the build-up and anticipation of seeing a movie after the fact, not knowing anything about it, except writing off of Batman Begins and Dark Knight. You know, it couldn't be as good as Dark Knight, but it's still such an amazing film. Like, this is an amazing movie, so I really enjoyed watching it again, and I enjoyed it much more on this watch. And it'll definitely be a great trilogy that I can honestly confidently say that all three are really great films. Wonderful films. So I think The Dark Knight is so good, but all three Lord of the Rings movies, that's hard because I love the second Lord of the Rings. If you put all three movies, Dark Knight is better than Lord of the Rings 2, but The Two Towers is the best of the Lord of the Rings movies. And then you have the third one and then the first for me. And it's literally the same thing for this trilogy, except it's reversed. I think it's the Dark Knight, then it's Batman Begins, then The Dark Knight Rises.
Agree.
But that being said, it's so close between Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises because the way they finished out the story was so well done.
Batman
So I actually think they're
Begins
almost neck and neck
#2?
for sure. Now you have to understand, me and Jordan saw that at we were like 13 at the time, and we watched the creation of this and like built like everything we hoped for. Like you watched this first, yeah. And so to be fair, like I actually wanted to ask you guys. This is a weird question. I don't want to steer off on it. Do you guys like the Star Wars prequels more than the originals or anything like that? Like,
Well, I grew up with them more, so
yeah, Clone Wars,
I
right?
enjoyed them
And so
more.
Jar Jar Binks is Grant's favorite character.
No, we're actually gonna get canceled.
The gladiator fight was super cool. Yeah. All the lightsabers, it's super exciting. What, from Academy Award winner Natalie Portman? Are you kidding? We got to get to the hangar. Hurry! And then that run she does. He sends a mercenary, and the mercenary sends 2 poisonous worms, centipedes, to do her
What was it?
job.
Honest Joe? He's like,
So
he's
an
like-
assassin
he's
hires
like,
an assassin
who hires a
who
robot
hires 2 worms.
that sends out
Who
a
hires
worm.
a robot to send worms. Dude, that's just when you're like, wait, George, you are so far up your own butt. You need to just take a step back and let somebody else write the story for you. Yikes. He said, they're like poetry. They rhyme. You guys heard the interview where he talks about Star Wars? Oh, it's so funny. It's like poetry. They rhyme.
That's really funny.
Bless his heart. So anyway, I just wanted to get on a tangent because I feel like it kind of depends largely when you grew up with these films. Like I said, I'd watched Dark Knights or Batman Begins so many times before I finally even saw The Dark Knight. And The Dark Knight comes out, it even defies my expectations, and it's even far better than I remember. And then finally seeing The Dark Knight. rises. There's definitely, like Jordan said, there are parts of this that I like more. Like, I do enjoy Bane's character. I think he's really cool. I love his connection to Bruce and everything that weighs heavily from the lie that they tell in the second one that carries over into this one. Like, Jim Gordon is being, plagued by this lie that he's carried around, and he has to carry the truth in his pocket because it is something that affects him. He's not able to to leave it in the past, and it's a little, crazy that, like, Bane gets it. So I really like this movie. I do. And so rewatching it, it is much more enjoyable than the first time. So let's go around and say two of our favorite things. Why don't we start with you, Grant?
Oh, Bane is my favorite. I just love how
My favorite.
like they did such a good job because really, like, the character in the comics and the cartoons, he like grows, like he physically grows, like whenever he injects like serum.
I think what Grant's saying is he literally uses the juice.
Yeah.
He injects steroids into his eyeballs and he gets super
Pretty
veiny
much.
and big.
They did such a good job for keeping him human size, and then kind of using that like whole serum stuff, like applying that to that what keeps him like breathing or something. Because I guess they alluded to that when he got like beat up saving the child, that like he needed like that mask to help him breathe.
Do we have any idea how he eats with that mask?
I don't know. It's a good question.
The Mandalorian, he just lifts it up, eats, and it's extremely painful, puts it back down. Maybe he just gets an IV and just drips applesauce into his veins, and he's like, tasty. Never had to chew food again.
I love how like strong he is, and just how much of a threat he actually is to Batman, which is just so awesome. And
Physical threat.
yeah,
He's the only one that physically beat Batman.
I love just everything about this movie. It's so good. I don't know. I like the music a lot. Christopher Nolan just always has a great soundtrack. So
Oh, Hans Zimmer.
Happy trails, Hans.
And I thought of that too.
Can't say Hans Zimmer without thinking of that. Happy score, Hans. Great score. We've got Jordan. What are your two favorite things from this movie?
Well, just piggybacking off of Grant and talking about Bane, I mean, how could you not talk about how he's amazing he is? Oh my gosh. Like, I just kept thinking how much of a comic book character he is. Because I was like, oh my gosh, he's really funny. Like, and menacing. Like, that's hard to pull off. To make somebody, like, still comically funny, but also, like, terrifying.
Allow me to break the ice. Very hard to pull off.
Yeah, like, he's like, follow them. What do you mean follow them?
It shoots him, yeah. Find him.
Yeah, his performance is unbelievable. I mean, he kind of went out like a bum, getting just obliterated by a gun.
Got shot by Catwoman with the bike.
that's my nitpick.
No, I don't even think of it that. It just seemed too much like a Deus Ex Machina, yeah. Like, look at the way they did Ra's al Ghul, where I don't have to save you either, I don't have to kill you, I don't have to save you either.
Yeah,
And
where's
look
the
at Joker.
one-liners before you die?
Well, granted, Joker did just get kidnapped and was laughing menacingly, but see, that's such a perfect end to the Joker.
That was when I thought he was going to die. That would have been perfect. Maybe a few more punches in his face, because remember when he was fighting him in the underground and he was punching Batman's mask and it was like smashing his face?
Crushing it in, yeah.
I thought he just pancaked Batman.
Nearly did, dude. Cracking the mask inward, yeah. If that mask would have given way, he would have had a hole in his head, for sure.
Yes.
Fist would have gone right through it.
And then talk about taking an amazing moment in comic book history, I hear, and breaking Batman's back. And then him coming back from that. Amazing.
Spirit or your body. Yeah, it's a really impressive shot where he just picks him up over his head, just like old classic wrestling, WWE, and just throws him down on his knee. It's just so gut-wrenching. How about back surgery in a freaking cave, in prison? One of your vertebrae is protruding from your back.
Oh, I love, like Ty's already mentioned, that Christopher Nolan takes all different parts from his different movies and puts them back in this. And I totally thought of Insomnia when he said, all those people that you let out, what does he say, that are in prison wrongfully. Totally thought of Insomnia.
Yeah, like I said, this is the sequel to Insomnia. If Hilary Swank turned in the evidence like the Commissioner Gordon's does, right? Like the truth about Harvey Dent, who's Al Pacino in this situation, right? And then all of his criminals get to be set free. So.
Yeah, talk about Jason Gordon-Levitt on a high horse. It's like, all right, buddy, calm down.
Jason. Who knows, dude? His name is just, it's one of those names. I hear you, Jordan. It's so forgettable. He needs to be called JDL now. JDL, man. Or just call him Robin. Robin. It's literally Robin.
Yes, he is Robin.
So my two favorite things is, yes, I thought it was really cool that Tom Hardy was able to do something enough with this character that stood out enough where, like, because you would say like anyone would be overshadowed by The Dark Knight. But what I liked about it is like Cillian Murphy set the tone of like really manic, psychotic.
Yes,
and
I
I
loved
think
his cameo in this.
He couldn't say that he didn't inspire Heath Ledger when he did the Joker, because they're like, we're doing a very dark version of this. Like, you look at the Scarecrow, he was a very dark, like, it's very psychotic, it's very scary and manic, you know, like he was very manic when he's talking to his cronies and the nauseous gas that makes you see your fear. Thanks to Cillian Murphy that we had the performance to Heath Ledger, and then Heath Ledger to Tom Hardy. I think Tom Hardy did a really good job. I love that he's been typecast now as like someone that loves to have his face covered, because you watch Dunkirk, he has the airline mask, the pilot oxygen. Mad Max Fury Road, he's got like gray on his face for a lot of the movie, and Bane, yeah, he acts with a lot of face coverings, which is kind of fun, you know, like it's kind of a signature thing. But to me, I think that adds to Tom Hardy's repertoire, because he, even though you don't necessarily always know that that's him, like, I think there's very few people that would have demanded such presence on screen, especially when shaping up to the Batman.
Well, most actors are always asking to take off the mask, like Mandalorian. Oh, I gotta take off my mask. It's
forced
like,
moments
screw you.
where, yeah, they take off the mask.
Yeah.
And this one is just, no, straight-laced, never took it off. I think you see it once in the cave, but it's before he's injured, so it makes sense, narratively speaking.
Well, it wasn't even him, though. It wasn't a different actor.
No, it was him. It was him. You almost don't recognize him.
Yeah.
It's so brief. It's just right where his turban shows his face, and then all the guys rush him and beat him up, so it's only for like a split second in the flashback. But what's really cool is, like I said, he was able to do enough with it. And like he said, it's fun to see. My second favorite thing is the challenge posed to Batman, where my favorite conversation is when Alfred talks to Batman and he goes, you don't need to prove anything. Like, you've been hiding in shadows all this time. You need to go on living your life. You need to get over Rachel. You need to do all these things. And Batman can't move on. And the most terrifying thing, he goes, you don't think I can do this, Alfred? And he goes, no, sir, I think that you'll get to the moment and you won't want to. Like, I think you honestly want to go and die. Like, I don't think you want to go on living. And that was that's just, emotionally speaking, there's so much weighing on Batman to fight Bane, because, and The Dark Knight was so good because Batman was being pushed to the limits of where he's like, I got to help Gotham, but what happens when I meet someone that can't be bought, bullied, or reasoned with? That's just straight walking chaos, right? Like, how do you come to terms with that? And this one, it was, I've been broken. I'm tired of being Batman. I want to pass the torch to somebody, right? Like, that was what he was talking about in Dark Knight. And here he is, a movie later, 8 years, he kind of went into hiding. And he's like, I'll just phase out. Like, we don't need Batman because thankfully a lot of the crime boss is gone. But then Bane comes back and introduces this world, and he's like, all right, I'll go fight Bane. And in the end, you're almost like, get the sense that Bruce Wayne is going to sacrifice himself, and he doesn't care if he wins or not, because he's done. He's like, at least people will know that I tried, and I'll die trying. And he's fine with that. And you're like, Batman, no, you can't die. Like, too many people are depending on you, you know? So we're going to build you a fetching monument, a memorial. Commemorating your service. Yeah, we'll build you a monument in the middle of the police precinct of vigilante justice. Gotham has a lot of issues, I'm just going to say. They literally put a criminal in their hall of the police. I'm just saying. That's pretty messed up. You're like, yeah, what gives you the right? He wasn't wearing hockey pads, folks. So I love that dilemma of the physical strength that he has to use to beat Bane, because the whole movie deals with growing older, right? Like, his physical body isn't what it used to be. He's broken most of the movie with his leg and the leg splint, his back, being broken by Bane. His physical strength was tested, and I love that. It's just so real, because again, you think about the actor Christian Bale going through this and all of the weight of carrying Batman trilogy on his back. There's just so much metaphorical and literal representation of what's happening, and it all comes together in this, and I just think that's so cool. So kudos. Watching it again was much more enjoyable, and I really enjoyed this film. Watched it this morning while working out, and I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. What are you listening to? This is awesome. Just over and over again. All right, so let's get into some nitpicks and questions. I have a few questions. So I like that. Okay, so I can totally buy that he fixed the autopilot and all that stuff. I was just confused. I guess they didn't show it, but he ejector seated and then swam back to, maybe he had a pilot. I don't know. He glided all the way back. I'm just saying, it was like it showed that he had 3 seconds, and I'm just saying that speeder bike wasn't flying at the speed of light, so he had to get pretty far away from that speeder bike when it blew up. It actually blew up, guys. So maybe he hid in a lead-lined fridge or something like that. I don't know. So asked Steven Spielberg how he survived that one.
Indiana Jones.
I just think I like the end scene where he's at the diner and he's like, or the cafe in Italy or wherever, Venice or Rome or wherever they are, and he's like sees Bruce Wayne with Anne Hathaway.
Or a safe. Did you watch Army of the Dead?
Yeah, it just hides in the safe. Oh. A big vault.
You watched the new movie on Netflix, Army of the Dead?
Oh, not yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry, whoops, spoiled that.
He broke his back. Does punching your back, and I don't know, does that actually heal it? I don't know. That's how long I've got for my back to heal. It's great. And then, like, how did he get back from... I can buy that he had resources. He could buy his way back to Gotham. Like, those kind of nitpicks I don't really care too much about, but...
Ty, you've never been to physical therapy? Isn't that what they do? They just punch you in the back?
Yeah, you just go there and they're like, great job, you're doing good. Keep up the positive attitude. You can do anything. The whole Aladdin scene where she fights the guy for the apple,
No, my favorite is when he tells the guy to light it up and he lights it and there's the Batman symbol. I was just thinking, how much time did it take him to like set that up so his Batman symbol could be there? Like, how many more people drowned in the ice? He's like, oh shoot, I gotta go faster.
I gotta finish painting this. Give me a minute, I'm almost done. It's my best work. People are falling through the ice beneath him. He's literally standing over them, watching them fall through the ice. So yeah, there's those things, but they're really cool for thematic, because it's like, who knows, right? How he did it doesn't matter. He can fly. He can do anything he wants. He can literally zip line up there, crudely paint, in gasoline or kerosene, a symbol of the bat, which is kind of dangerous, I think. But in the end, that scene though where he finds Catwoman. How does he find Catwoman in the middle of the street somewhere, fighting off thugs that literally this kid stole an apple? And he's just like, I literally thought of that scene in Aladdin where he's like, do you know the penalty for stealing? That's what it made me think of, because then she like fights him, and then I love the scene where like Anne Hathaway like gets the kid the apple back, but then she takes a bite of it and then gives it to the kid, and I'm like, I get that that's like your cool moment, but I was like, what if that kid was a germaphobe? And he's like, yeah, no thanks, you can give it now. And she's like, no, I just took one bite of it. You can eat the rest of the apple. And he's like, yeah, that's disgusting. Like, I don't want an apple bitten from you. Or what if it was like, she took a bite like all symbolically, like, oh yeah, we're cool, we can take, it's like, that kid's probably starving. Like, give the kid the whole apple. You don't need to take the bite from the apple is my point. I just didn't like it. I don't know why it bothered me so much. Anne Hathaway just kind of annoyed me a little bit. And she was so snarky. I liked her conversation at the beginning when she said how there's a storm coming. There's no way that you rich folks can eat off of us like this and leave so little for the rest of us. I liked that whole monologue. Because it is very much what a terrorist says.
Going to one of those... where they have all the actors signing and autographing things, and Ty's like so excited to meet Christopher Nolan, and Anne Hathaway like steps in front right before Ty's about to meet Christopher Nolan, and she like autographs Ty's hand, and he's like, what the crap?
What? I had like a photo of like the poster of Dark Knight, and I get everyone to sign in, and Anne Hathaway is like at the very end of the line, and I just move past her. I get Tom Hardy's signature, I get autograph from Christopher Nolan and Christian Bale, and then Anne Hathaway. I'm like, no, you don't need to sign it.
I was thinking she would sign it the biggest and put it right over Christopher Nolan's name.
She'd probably kiss it with some giant dark lipstick, and just leave it on there and be like, does anyone want this poster? I got to get a new one. Thanks, Anne Hathaway. You ruined my poster. She did. It just annoyed me for some reason. Like, I got what she did. It just made me laugh. That was just one nitpick. These are nitpicks. How did he find her there? I don't know how he found her there. How did he know that she would be there saving that little Latin kid from stealing an apple? Like, how did he know where she was? Who knows? The other question was, how did they get the motorcycles on the inside of the Wall Street Exchange? Not explained. I mean, it's kind of cool scene, but it's like, they barely brought in the bike helmet, and everyone freaked out from the metal detectors. I guess they just brought the motorcycles in.
I like the screaming Wall Street guys on the back of the bikes. Just reminds me of video games when you're supposed to rescue, somebody.
I also like that actor, too, where he stood up. It reminded me of the scene at the dinner party where he's like, there's no money here. Then he grabs him and throws his head down on the desk.
Yes.
It just makes me laugh.
Then what are you doing here?
What are you doing here? There's no money here. We're not intimidated by thugs like you. You remind me of my father. I hated my father. It's like that scene where you're going to see Bane torture someone because they just like try to stand up to him. I just like that because there's a lot of brave people in Gotham, that They deal with this crap every day.
Okay, I'm back to the Wall Street guys. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of cocaine now, and I'm thinking, like, what if Jordan Belfort was working at that place, and he just had everybody just, like, start snorting up cocaine? And they all changed.
I'm not dying sober. and then Bruce Wayne shows up, like his character in American Psycho, and he's just like, their best recorded album was actually in 19... And he grabs an axe and just chops Bane up, dude. That's crazy, dude. It's all a crossover. They're all related. All the movies, all of Nolan's films, all of Christian Bale's films, Jared Leto, they're all interconnected. It's all one universe.
Tenet.
I did the Tenet sign, didn't I? This is all just... Did you guys ever see that video with the interview that Tom Cruise gave about Scientology? It's the funniest thing. I'll send it to you guys tonight, but he's just like, I can't do an impression of Tom Cruise. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. Like, I don't know. He always does those, like, long pauses. And he's like, I'm the big star. I can't even do Tom Cruise, but basically, he's off the rocker for sure. I'll send you the interview, though, because he loses his mind. Funny. And they basically talks about how you're not supposed to displease the Scientologists. It was really weird, and it was really creepy. And one of the comments in the YouTube section was like, Tom Cruise's behavior displeases Scientology. And I don't know, it made me laugh so hard. Like, this displeases me. It just made me laugh so hard because they were asking him about, like, Scientology, and he wasn't willing to share much about it because it's all kind of hush-hush and secret. So, anyway, it just made me laugh.
That's really funny.
Now we have Scientology. Listen to our podcast. They're going to be following us forever. I'm going to get one of those Nilla envelopes like that judge in The Dark Knight. Where are you going? Man, we don't even know where you're going. And then there's just one word on the envelope, up, and I blow up. Oh my gosh. Let's get into other nitpicks. You guys have any other nitpicks you guys wanted to throw out?
Nah, just Bane's death. And then the twist wasn't very great.
Bane's death.
It was like, oh, cool. You're
he goes out like a bee. He gets shot.
Right after. I'm like, okay, cool.
Some of the messages were a little heavy-handed, and it was a little confusing. You're like, I don't understand what message is going on here.
I like the idea that Commissioner Gordon was like a war hero in peacetime, and we just kind of lose sight of the importance that they had and the role they had in bringing about peace. It's kind of like a cycle of pride that you read about. You get people that after a while you live off the hog, fat off the hog. You forget about all the trials that it took you to get to this moment, and then you forget about all the people that brought you there. I kind of think about America kind of goes in this cycle, and then we get attacked or something comes upon the world, and then we all band together and we get strong again. And Bane has that quote where he tells Batman, peace has cost you your strength, victory has defeated you, which is a really good line because, again, when you're sitting comfortably and you've done everything you can do, and then the next challenge comes by, you're not strong enough to be defeated by yourself, and that's why Batman needed to rely on his friends. He needs to get Robin to come in, suit up, Robin could have fought. I love he's in prison watching Gotham burn to the ground with the news. Keeps watching Gotham tear itself apart. It's pretty good revenge plot.
Well, the TV and, like, the light, like, looking up at the hole.
Yeah, right, yeah. So the hole is torture because the idea that he might be able to get out, and then he leaves the TV on to watch Gotham burning in ashes, which is like, how much can he take? One of my favorite lines, though, and it made me laugh, I wrote it down because I thought it was so funny, was when Bane was like, so he goes, we're all the League of Shadows or whatever, right? Members of the League of Shadows. And he goes, and you betrayed us. And then Batman goes, you were excommunicated by a gang of psychopaths. For some reason, that delivery made me laugh when he talks about a gang of psychopaths. Like, it was just really funny to hear him say that. By a gang of psychopaths. It just made me laugh. Like, that's a funny line. Gang of psychopaths is funny any way you read the line, and it's just so much funnier when Batman's doing his Batman voice.
I love when Catwoman disappears and he's like, oh, so that's how it feels.
That's what that feels like. He turns around and kicks the brick wall. He kicks the brick wall behind him and like kicks out the pillar.
It doesn't make his foot metal. His foot's probably broken.
Well, my mother told me about getting into cars with strange men. This isn't a car. I thought it would have been funny if he's like, I'm not a man. I thought that would have been a better line. It would have been more confusing because he wouldn't have understood what he meant by that. But just saying, Batman can be whatever he wants. He identifies as a man. Bat,
I'm Batman.
Yeah, I'm not a strange man. I'm Batman. I'm not a strange man. I'm Batman.
Because I'm Batman.
I will just say, the whole driving the bombs around the city, I mean,
that's a little weird.
The whole plan was kind of convoluted and kind of silly.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. Like, in the end, it's like, I don't know how I would have fixed it, because I can just point out problems, but I'm like, I don't know. And like one person has the trigger, so they all had to believe that
Clones.
anonymously they would get blown up if anyone tried to escape. Because they have this moment where it's like, the bomb goes off at midnight tonight. It's like, blow it up now, you idiot. So you remember the Watchmen? It's like, why do you think I'm telling you? It's already been off for 12 minutes. You're like, it's so good. Because Grant, you didn't see that movie, did you, Grant?
Not yet, no.
They hear the villain at the end is monologuing, and he goes, "Why do you think I'm telling you my evil plan? I already detonated it like 12 minutes ago." And then you just see it like exploding in the back. It's so good, Grant. But that's what happens.
That was my biggest thing with Mandalorian. He's like, we have a thing that's gonna kill you, and you have until nightfall. I'm like, why don't you just shoot in 3 seconds?
You haven't been down. Maybe you should make your move now. Give him 5 seconds. Okay.
Yeah,
Instead,
right?
it's like, we'll give you like 3 hours to get out of it.
To think about how to escape.
How to get out of there. Think about what you've done. Also, I like that actor, the Daggett's character. I was disappointed that he died. What's his name? Ben Mendelsohn in Mississippi Grind. He's the villain in Star Wars. He's the guy who gets his head twisted by Bane. Do you remember
He
that
says,
guy?
"Do you feel in charge?"
Awesome. Would you guys recommend The Dark Knight Rises?
After you've watched the other 2 better ones.
Yeah, try watching it in order, maybe. And then you guys will
Yeah.
understand that 2 is the best, 1 is the second best, and Dark Knight Rises is the third best. Undisputed Dark Knight, but I know people that like Batman Begins best. I do know people that like it best. And I've heard their case. It is interesting to hear their case about it. Kevin didn't like the first Dark Knight first time he saw it. So real quick, let's just go around and share what movies that we've seen lately. How about you, Grant? You seen anything lately?
I haven't watched a ton. I watched Follow the Bride yesterday. That was really good. Classic Steve Martin movie.
You said, I thought you said 150 ahead. I was going to kill
Kill
myself.
myself.
No. 250
Yeah.
ahead. Anything else, Grant?
No, I haven't really seen much, but I'm looking forward to Quiet Place 2 this Friday. And
Yes. Let's go see Quiet Place. That'll be
The
fun.
Batman, Robert Pattinson, next year. IMDb says March 4th of next year. Yeah, so it's a while away.
They just got to get all their money back. They just need it. They need their money back. So they're like, maybe in a year's time, we'll go back to movie theaters. So, real quick, Jordan, have you seen anything lately?
Yeah, I watched Zodiac with my girlfriend, and she was freaking out. She kept covering her eyes. She
It's
was
pretty scary.
stressing out so much, and it was hilarious because I like, oh, you can open your eyes now. She opened her eyes right when he like walks into the frame, and when he's like trying to open the door, it's locked. And then the guy walks behind him in the mirror, and I got her on it, and she saw it, and she screamed, and she was so upset. It was so funny.
How's your relationship?
I know, I'm the worst. And then I also watched The Taking of Pelham 123 or whatever it's called. Pelham.
Phelan.
Yeah. Anyways, I loved it.
It's pronounced Pam. Pam. Pam.
And it's a Tony Scott movie, and so he just knows how to make really cool visuals. And it's got Denzel Washington and
Val Kilmer? Or is it Russell Crowe? Who is it? John Travolta.
John Travolta. Yeah.
It's one of those 3 psychotic.
It reminds me of Phone Booth. It's pretty fun.
No. I do want to see it, but I remember hearing it wasn't that good. But I think I got it from a bad recommendation. So
It's visually fun.
decent.
It reminds me of Nonstop. Obviously another
Yeah.
Tony Scott movie.
That's another movie I need to see because I watched most of it, but I didn't finish it.
Oh, it's
but
so
that is a
good.
fun one.
I rewatched it. It's amazing. Quentin Tarantino talked about it. It's so good.
And I talked about Dunkirk too. I remember that interview. So I watched. So real quick, I just want to summarize real quick on Christopher Nolan. It's been such a treat reviewing him because I think he's by far one of my top favorite directors of all time. And I almost forgot to mention how all the movies stemmed from Memento and from Following. All of his movies revolve around it. I just like the moment where at the very beginning of Memento where he shoots the guy, it's in reverse, and he literally catches a bullet through his head. It made me think of Tenet. Because I'm like, what if he watched that visual and was like, wouldn't it be cool if people like what's it called? We rewound bullet shooting and then just had a bullet come through his head the other way. It literally was the visual, because after you see Tenet and you go back and watch Memento, you're like, he literally has the shot where the bullet comes back through his head and he screams, he goes, no, and the bullet comes back to his gun. I'm just saying he caught a bullet, and it made me think, that's really cool. So But in the end, it was really fun to review all of those movies. And then lastly, I just
Yes.
watched the movie Army of the Dead, which is so poorly named. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. I didn't see the trailer, but just the title made me think like there's going to be a war. I mean, I don't know why you'd have an army without a war.
Well, my favorite was getting a text from you 30 minutes in, Ty. You're like, I don't know what your problem is, Jordan. This is great. And then all of a sudden, silence.
Jordan, you know, it's so funny. Nothing after, because guess what? After 30 minutes, you can stop watching the movie, because the two best scenes are the opening credits, which are really fun. It's Vegas and all the zombies are outbreaking and everything. And I'm like, they're going to have this great movie, like trying to pull off a heist while there's a zombie outbreak going on. That would have been so cool, right? But instead, they did the post-apocalyptic thing where it's like the zombie outbreak has already happened. You have to go back in, which you could still make a really fun movie, but they didn't do anything. And I have so many questions, more than I have answers. But anyway, opening scene was great. And then there's a great scene where you introduce the helicopter pilot and she accepts the mission, guys, without knowing anything about it. She's like, $2 million? I'm in. And they're like, well, don't you want another mission? She's like, nope. My life sucks. Like, I'm totally ready for it. It was really funny. And I was like, if the movie's going to be like this, I don't know what Jordan's talking about. Like, we didn't see the same movie. Then after that, guys, it just goes down. There's one other scene.
Comic book villains, like old school garbage.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The guy from Raising Hope, right? He's great in a lot of things, but his character, like, he hated the zombie tiger. The zombie tiger ate him and, like, messed him up. That was like a 2-minute scene where the tiger's throwing him around. It felt like I was watching The Revenant. Like, just watching Leonardo DiCaprio being thrown around and mauled by a tiger. It was like watching The Revenant meets Tiger King. Like, it was that movie. Like watching Carol Baskin and Joey Tiger King being torn apart by the zombie tiger. It was so weird. One of the biggest glaring plot holes was the idea that this guy that had him go break into their vault, why didn't he give him the combination to the safe? Guys, Zack Snyder, and how brilliant you are. This guy, this rich billionaire guy, he's like, you need to go into my casino or whatever and get into my vault and get all my money. And he never gives them the combination to the lock. They have to go break into it and figure out what it is. They have a safe guy who unlocks it, you know, masterfully. But it's like, why couldn't he just give them the freaking combination? Anyway, the other plot twist, I don't know if you guys want to see it. If you don't want to hear it, spoil it, don't listen. In the end, it's revealed that all he wanted was a zombie head. And apparently the government will pay more than $200 million that he has stored away. And I'm like, when they get into the village city, there's zombies everywhere, and they're all asleep, because unless it rains on them, they're gonna wake up. I don't know. It's never introduced again. They talk about it. Yep,
Yeah.
there's zombies everywhere, and they're all lying down. I'm like, oh, at the end of the movie, it's gonna start raining, and they're gonna have to run out of there.
That's what I thought.
Never happened.
I was so
never
excited.
happened, which was so disappointing, because I was like, you're gonna see the Army of the Dead at the very end when it starts to rain. Like, there comes a rain cloud. Never happens. Anyway, the zombies are all lying there, like, asleep. I'm like, you could have just taken one of their fetching heads and cut off. You could have cut off all number of zombies' heads. They didn't. I don't know if it was just a rewrite or a reshoot or whatever, but like, it made no sense. So this guy has a plot. He goes along with the heist, but he's just there to collect a zombie head. He ends up collecting the bride of the master zombie that's like the leader and the king of all this, who's so ridiculous. He wears an armored helmet so he can like take bullets to the head and they keep bouncing off of his head comically. It's so bonkers. Like, I'm like, did they never bother once to look at this movie and have someone else peer review it? It's just like, there's robot zombies introduced that are never explained. Like, there's 2 or 3 robots where they shoot them and there's like blue circuits like coming out of its head, and you're like, that's a robot zombie. Like, they'd never address it. There's one of my favorite things, Jordan, and you're going to understand this. The coyote that smuggles people in to the casinos to steal money so they can get money to leave Las Vegas and take their families away from these basic border camps. Like, it's basically the Mexico border is what this is a stand-in for, which is kind of silly because they're free to leave at any time, but they never do because I guess they need money or whatever they need. But there's just this funny scene where this coyote, this blonde chick, is like, I like the zombies here because they don't F over their own people, is what she says. And like, 2 scenes later, the zombie king has 3 women locked in a room in his hotel room, and it's basically implied that he uses them for his wenches and impregnates them with zombie babies, because he literally does, but he literally proceeds to throw one of these women at the wall, and I'm like, yeah, look at that. They don't F their own people over here in the zombie kingdom, you know? Like, it was just so stupid. Like, I was like, what's your parallel here? Like, the zombies are so much better because they don't have capitalism, like evil capitalism that they do in the real world. I don't know. Or misogyny. It's like, you had the zombie man throw the poor women against the wall, like abusing them. I'm like, no, their society isn't any better than what we have on the outside world. Anyway,
The
that
part
was just
that
a laughable
infuriated
moment.
me was it reminded me so much of the Star Wars The Last Jedi, because they built up so many things and then did nothing with it. I just
didn't
don't
pay off
understand
anything.
that. He built up so many good ideas, like when they were sleeping and they were like walking around him, and that girl, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
quiet.
amazing, and she's like surviving, and then she
Yeah.
bursts through the window, and
She
I'm like,
bursts
she's
through the
gonna
window,
tell.
guys. Yeah, so she gets left behind because the guy locks the door behind her to get her killed. She ends up breaking through the window and survives, and all of them are standing there watching her, and she's not bit yet. And then they
And
all
she
just
has
watch her
plenty
get
of
bit.
space, and they're
She has plenty
right
of
there
space.
next to her,
And they all just watch her
sit there
die.
and stare at her.
They just watch her die, and she doesn't get a chance to say, "Hey, that guy locked the door and tried to get me killed." And there's even a scene where all the characters acknowledge that they don't want to have this guy along for the heist because they're suspicious of him, and they don't do anything with
Type,
it.
she had more space right there at the end than she did when she was in the room, like
Oh yeah,
wall to wall
oh,
with
yeah,
zombies.
absolutely.
I
And
just
all the
didn't-
other guys could have given her cover fire, and they never did. They just
Yeah.
watched her get bit. Oh, and another funny thing is when my favorite, the main guy, I'm so excited, Juan Bautista or whatever his name is, James Bautista, he gets the girl to admit that she likes him. And then that moment, as soon as the elevator opens, the zombie comes out and twists her head around, like rips her head and twists her around, right as you find out that she had feelings for the main character. And it's like, why would you do this? Like, there's no mention of any romantic thing. And then at the very end, she's like, I think we could start a future together. And then a zombie comes out of the elevator and just rips her head off. It's like, why would you punish us like this? It's because they needed to make her death, I guess, seem more weighted. But like, they never alluded to their relationship before the movie. It was just at that
I
moment.
just felt nothing for anybody except
Yes.
the German and the black guy. Also wanted to announce next month, Nicolas Cage, baby.
I honestly thought you were going to say you were getting married or something.
I just want to announce
I want to
everyone.
announce something, guys.
Don't freak out.
Nicolas Cage is on next month.
Nicolas
We're gonna
Cage
get
is
Grant on
coming
for
to
Mandy,
town.
baby.
Oh my word. Last thing I want to say about it though is, so none of that paid off, and in the end there's like just all this build up and you're thinking something's going to happen and there's no army. The zombie jumps into the helicopter with them and they try to fly off and they all die. And the lady, so guys, Juan Bautista's daughter, I keep calling him Juan Bautista. Is that his name? Something Bautista. Bautista's daughter comes along for the mission to go save an immigrant that went into the casino in Las Vegas to go get money. So she goes in there to go find her and bring her back out because she somehow feels responsible for her. At the end of the movie, we don't know if she survives. The helicopter crashes. There's no mention of her. The movie just ends and it's between Bautista and his daughter, and she shoots him in the face because he turns into a zombie. And she didn't have the decency to shoot him before he died.
And didn't that piss you off, dude? She was so annoying.
She was so annoying. She was the most annoying
I have
character.
to go save these people, and then they all die.
And she's like,
it's
I'm
and she
going with you, with or
and she
without
got
you.
her dad and everyone else killed.
She got, yeah, Dave Bautista. I keep calling him
Screw
Juan.
her.
Dave Bautista, yeah. So, yeah, she's the absolute worst. Ella Purnell, I'm sure she's a great actress or whatever, but she annoyed the heck out of me in this movie. And it was so infuriating because she got everyone killed. And her whole objective was to get her back. She failed at that. And I'm assuming because he stole a few stacks of cash and gave it to her, he's like, you can go use your money. I hope she, like, I guess, goes on to adopt those two kids whose mother she got killed. Like, I hope she becomes their parents. And then at the very end of the movie, the guy climbs out of the safe out of a nuclear explosion. So he didn't survive the radiation. But even if he did, he like goes out, gets on an airplane, and he has the zombie bite mark that he never notices. It's not bleeding at all, but he has this giant zombie bite mark, and he's on a plane. And it's obviously setting up a sequel, but I'm like, was the wound not bleeding? Did he ever address it? Did he not know he had the bite? It was just, I have so many questions. A lot of plot holes. There's silly things. But anyway, they said they're opening a whole universe. They're going to have another film, I think 2 or 3 other films or something like that already in production. So I'm like, well, there you go. Just keep making more Army of the Dead movies. But I'm like, it better be a lot better. And hopefully maybe they'll address some of the things that they never addressed in this movie. Like maybe the third movie, Army of the Dead 3, maybe they'll have it rain at the end and then there'll be a big war or something, right? Like something to pay off all the things they set up in this movie that never paid off. But in the end, your movie needs to be one cohesive part. So even if you like add on to things in later sequels, like The Dark Knight, it's still a completed character arc when you have Harvey Dent and Batman take the fall for it. But anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is Futro Hidden Movie Gems. Leave us an email, futromovies@gmail.com. Follow us, share, subscribe, push the notification bell, like our videos, leave us a comment. If you like a movie that you want us to review, we won't make fun of you for recommending it, even if it's sick and sadistic, because we love you listeners. We don't want you to be offended by anything we say on this podcast. Except you. I want you to be offended. You, and you. You're banished from the show. You can't come on here. Don't suggest things anymore. No one knows who I'm talking to, and that's the point. It's ambiguous, just like all of Nolan's films. It's the noble lie. We want to hear from you. That's the noble lie. And we just want you guys to know we've had so much fun reviewing all Christopher Nolan's films, and more films will come out of his. Hopefully Tenet wasn't the thing to get him no more work, because, it didn't make as much money as we all hoped. But everybody, this is Future Hidden Movie Gems. Thanks for listening. Future Hidden Movie Gems signing out. Peace.
Bye.
Goodbye.